Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Thank you for joining the Spiritist Talk series promoted by the United States Spiritist Federation every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. I am very happy to host this talk by Joyce MAGALHAES, who will be leading our live with the theme, Does Happiness Exist? Let's all give Joyce a very warm welcome. But before she starts her presentation, allow me to introduce her. Joyce MAGALHAES is an anesthesiologist and assistant clinical professor in the anesthesia department of McMaster University in Canada. Raised in a Catholic family, she started studying Spiritism in 2008 when starting work at the Mount Vernon Spiritist Center in New York. In 2011, she returned to Canada and has continued active work at the Toronto Spiritist Society, where she helps with public lectures. Please take this opportunity now to send your questions during the presentation using the chat window. Joyce has reserved time to address your comments and questions once she concludes her presentation. And now I present Joyce.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure for me to be here and to share a little bit some of the ideas that Spiritism brings to us. And so basically all my talk today will be based on the Spirit's book and the Gospel according to Spiritism. So for the next few minutes, I'm going to share a little bit of what I've learned and also bring some reflection. So my goal here today is mainly to invite each of you to reflect about this topic and also maybe bring some curiosity to your mind in hope that you can go and read more and study more and just don't take what I say for granted. Go and study and learn more. We are all learning in this journey. And I'm just going to share a little bit of what I had a chance to learn during this last couple of years in Spiritism. So thank you so much for the United Spiritist Society, and it's my pleasure to be here with you all. So today I'm going to talk about this topic, does happiness exist? It's interesting to think about that, because at the same way that it sounds an easy question to answer, once we start to think more, like deeper on the meaning of happiness, it really brings us lots of reflection. And maybe at the end of this talk, you're going to see happiness in a very different way, in a very different perspective. So to start to think about that, I guess the first thing that we need to answer first, before figuring out if happiness exists, is to try to figure out what happiness means. So what is happiness? Did you ever stop to think about that? And I can tell you, although it sounds a silly question, but if we ask for different people in different conditions, in different situations at the moment, in different parts of the world, very, very likely I'm going to get different answers, because it's so relative when we think about happiness. So basically, if I ask someone that is as privileged as most of us here probably listening to this talk, that live in North America, or live in a developed country and has a house to live, has work, has like the minimum support and the minimum condition to have a good life, probably if we ask one of us what is happiness, very likely, or there's a good chance that our answer will be something material or related to material things. Like some people might say, oh, happiness is to have a chance to afford a house, or have a chance to afford good education to my kids. Or some people even can go a little more like having a chance to win the lottery. that would be happiness if I can win the lottery. Or things like having a good car, the car that I'm dreaming for, or any different things, or having a work, like I'm dreaming for a certain position in my work. So if I could reach that, probably I would reach happiness, or I would have the feeling of happiness in my heart. But if you go to the hospitals right now, anywhere in the world, and you see somebody that is bedridden with some chronic condition, or is very like at the end of life stage, if you ask them what is happiness, they're gonna answer in a very, very different way that we do. So probably happiness to them will be something as simple as to be able to eat food. So let's say someone that is in a very difficult condition now, very sick, that has not been even able to eat for days or for weeks because of their condition. So just like a spoon of a dish or a food that they love will bring them happiness, something as simple like that. Or if you go to, let's say, some places in Africa, or even in Brazil, that we have some areas that are very, very poor. Let's think any place that like people live in very, very like low condition. So maybe if you ask one of those kids there, what is happiness? They will say something that is very, very like small to our minds, like something like, oh, maybe a tiny toy, or maybe having my mom with me because I lost my mom like long time ago, or I was born without parents, or so they will see, or maybe they will say, just have water to take a shower. This is happiness to me. So basically what I'm trying to show you guys is all the different perspective, that the concept of happiness will be totally related to your situation, to how your perspective of life, and how you understand the meaning of life, and so on. So and in the stage of evolution that we are all now, we are still very much linked, connected to the material things, to the matter, right? And this is part of our current stage of evolution, that obviously we are all evolving, but we are still very much connected to the matter. So most of the answers will be in some way related to the material things. And maybe one or other people will think in some moral aspects of happiness. And this is basically what we aim for during this talk, to bring this concept of happiness more to the moral aspect of life and growth. And hopefully this can bring us some reflection and maybe help you to see that no matter where you are, no matter what condition you are facing, no matter how much challenges you are facing now, there is always a way to have that feeling of happiness inside you. But you're also going to understand that the happiness we are talking about is not the happiness of the perfect life. It's not the happiness that we all dream for. Because also in the next few minutes, I'm gonna bring up the concepts and the ideas brought to us by the Spiritism, and we're gonna understand that perfect happiness does not really exist, because we are not ready for it yet. But we can feel, and we should feel, the happiness that we can. And that comes mainly when we see and we have a different perspective and understanding about life, what the challenges that I'm facing means, and what the purpose of me being in this current life, in this present moment, facing all the challenges that I'm facing. When I start to understand that, and also fully understand me as an immortal spirit, as an immortal being, that also bring us lots of consolation and understanding and hope. And that feeling brings lots of happiness to our hearts too. So basically, that's what we're going to concentrate today. So again, when we think about happiness, I bring it back again, that concept of relativeness, right? It depends on where you are. And many of us still connect happiness to materialism. And it's simple to prove that that concept is wrong. It's just basically, if we think that happiness is really connected to material things, why the very wealthy and rich places and developed places are not so happy as they were supposed to, right? Why, when we see places like Japan, very developed country and society, highly developed in technology and in intellectual concepts, why is one of the places with the highest incidence of suicide? Does that match? Does that make sense? So that actually is a red flag to show us that happiness is not connected to material evolution or material aspect of life, right? In the same way, when we visit places, some communities, very poor communities in Africa, for example, and I use this example because I support the organization called Fraternity Without Borders, that many of you are also familiar. And they do beautiful projects in Africa. And it's amazing to see when we visit those communities that we arrive there, we see people laughing, dancing, and like a true party, right? Because for them, the happiness is a lot more connected to the moral aspect and to see life in a very different way and understanding their challenges and still be able to find happiness like with what they have. Because even though they are not spiritists, so we don't need to be spiritists to understand that, but they certainly have a strong connection to the divinity, to the spiritual world, in a way to feel that happiness even in very poor condition. So it's very, I always feel amazed to do that connection and to do that reflection. And I do that exercise also, myself, when I'm facing challenges, because obviously I'm very far away from that level of perfection that we all aim for. So I certainly have moments in my life that I question God, I question the situation, I put myself as a victim, and I have that moment that I don't understand why I'm facing this. So those moments I stop, I take a step back, and I try to think about all the different aspects of life. There's always people that are facing more challenging and more difficulties than me, for sure. And many of those people are able to find the happiness that I've not been able at the moment. So that reflection reconnected me to God and to my faith and helped me understanding and helped me to find that happiness that I need to go through that challenge. And that's what I hope for all of you guys today as well. So we're going to move on by bringing some ideas that the Spirit's book teach us. And again, I'm going to talk about a few questions here, but there's a lot more. So I really wish and hope that after this talk, you are curious enough to explore more about the Spirit's book and the gospel according to Spiritism. Start the gospel at home if you didn't yet. So that will bring so much understanding and love to your family, to your environment, that I can reassure you that definitely that will bring some happiness to your heart as well. So in the question 920 in the Spirit's book, there's this question: can human beings enjoy perfect happiness on earth? So it's exactly the main concept of my lecture today, like, does happiness exist? So Kardec had the same question in his mind when he asked the spirits that, right? Can human beings enjoy perfect happiness on earth? So the spirits were clear to say no, because corporeal life has been appointed to them either as a trial or as an atonement. People must reduce their misfortunes themselves and make their lives as happy as possible while on earth. So this is exactly what I was discussed a few minutes ago, that basically the spirits are telling us that happiness that we dream for, we are not ready yet for that. And it would be very unfair if any of us would have a very perfect, happy life. We would certainly be here on planet Earth, incarnated on planet Earth, right? What's the purpose on facing all these challenges and be so happy? Plus, what's the purpose of you yourself have a perfect life and being like happy all the time? If you look in your neighbors around you and you see anger and you see hunger and you see people fighting to each other and you see so much violence, injustice, many mental crises, many political problems that we see all the time. So Spiritism also shows us that you can only be happy if your neighbors around you are happy too. It's impossible for you yourself to reach that highest level of happiness if you look beside you and your neighbors are not as happy as you, right? So, and again, bring that concept that we are not a single person in this world. We are meant to live in a collective environment. We are meant to take care of us and everybody around us. That starts in our family, but the main goal is not only to see our blood-related family, but also the universal family. So while I'm here, I'm lucky enough to live in a peaceful country, I have neighbors that are living in countries with lots of conflict for many different reasons, religious reasons, political reasons that we see all the time on the news. So it's impossible for me to be totally happy if I see so many like a war and conflicts going around, right? So basically that's exactly what the spirits bring in this answer. They are saying that we cannot reach this perfect happiness yet. This is not part of the planet Earth at the moment. We still live in a trial and atonement condition. And this is needed because we are still evolving. We still need to clean lots of selfishness from our hearts and cultivate and make it grow the love, the care, the sharing inside of us, right? And that's why they say people must reduce their misfortune themselves. So we do have the free will for that. We cannot make anyone else do that. We are responsible to ourselves. So now it's our turn to look into our lives in our action with a different perspective and be the actor of my actions, my choices, and take that responsibility. If I face a difficult situation now, I'm the one that can have an attitude to make it better, to look into that with a different perspective and make it change it in a positive way. Right? And as the Spirit said, make my life as happy as possible while on earth. So although I cannot reach that perfect happiness yet, but I have the duty and the job to feel as happy as I can with what I'm offered in this life. And I can only reach that stage if I understand that, number one, I'm an immortal spirit. I'm growing. I'm a child of God. I still need to look into myself, knowing that I'm still a child. I'm learning. I will have moments that I need to forgive myself And I need to understand that, yes, I make mistakes, but I'm the one who can correct them too, and can change them, and can make a new beginning. I cannot change the past, but I can always make a new beginning, right? Like our friend Chico Xavier taught us. So basically, that's the idea. And when we start to fully understand that, it really makes us get closer to that happiness we dream for. The question 921, it asks, we understand that human beings will be happy on Earth when the human race has been transformed. Meanwhile, can people ensure a moderate amount of happiness for themselves? And then the spirits answer, human beings are often the architects of their own unhappiness. So basically the spirits are saying, my friend, if you feel unhappy now, you are the one who chose that. You are not a victim. We are not a victim. Everything that I'm facing now, that I'm dealing with now, is a consequence of my own choices. So this is so important for us to do that self-reflection and starting to know ourselves, because that's the first step for us to make this transformation, to start to evolve and start to progress. So the spirits continue. If they obey God's law, they spare themselves much sorrow and also secure all the happiness corresponding with the human condition. So basically, the spirits are clear in saying that, would you like the condition of happiness? Would you like to be happy? It's simple. Just follow God's law. And that's the basic principle, right? And that's very fair. And that shows us that God is all love and justice. And the minute that we see ourselves as a victim and we think that God is not just with us, you can step back and reflect, because you're going to find where you did the mistake. You're going to start to realize that everything you are facing is a consequence of your choice. It's not God injustice. It's actually God is giving you a chance to restart every day. And the pain and sorrow you are facing at the moment is the consequence of your previous actions, either in this life or in previous life. So that is the most important things to show how just God is. And he's so just and he loves us so much that no matter how bad mistake you've done, you have a chance to restart it. You're always going to get a second chance. God always is going to see you with much love and care that's going to give you a new opportunity. Is that going to be easy? Depends on your mistake? Definitely not. And that's what we face in different ways, right? Each of us face our own trials in this life. And that basically is a way for us to learn. Wouldn't make sense for God just to hug us and say, don't worry, my son, don't worry, my daughter, I'm going to take care of you, and then spoil us and don't give us the opportunity to really learn with our own mistakes. We would never be able to transform and to change ourselves. We need to go through that process of pain sometimes, of problems, of difficulties, of diseases. All those is part of this process of learning and growing. And that makes sense when we think about life and when we see all the challenges going around, right? And by having that understanding, it can bring us so much consolation in knowing also that the life is not this present incarnation. So it's immortal. So I will have a chance to redo it. And even if I don't find the human justice in this life, the justice will come, because the justice comes from God. And he is always just. Right? So I know that I might be crying today, but I'm going to be happy tomorrow. So continue with that question. The comments that the spirits bring to us are exactly that. People who are positive about their future destinies view their physical life as a temporary station. So we start to understand that this current life is just a very, very small chapter in our journey, right? And they continue. It is for them a momentary stopover at an awful hotel. They easily find solace for the fleeting frustrations of their journey in the fact that it is bringing them to a new and happier position, which will be all the more favorable in proportion to the preparations they have made. In this life, we are punished for violating the laws of corporeal existence via the suffering that is a consequence of these violations, and by the suffering that results from our own excesses. When we trace human troubles back to their origin, we find that the overwhelming majority are the result of an initial deviation from the right path. So basically, the spirits are telling us that everything that we face that is painful and difficulty are a result of a moment in our lives, either this life or previous life, that we deviated from that right pathway. So in order to go back to the correct pathway, we will face challenges and obstacles. This deviation forces us to enter a wrong path, and each subsequent step brings us more deeply into misfortune. So basically, until you find a moment to stop and realize that sequence of events and understand why I'm facing this, you'll not be able to go back to the right pathway. So basically, we need to reflect when we face a challenge. And I try to do that exercise every day in my life too. It's not easy, but I try my best. Is when I face a difficulty, instead of complaining and see myself as a victim, I stop, I do a prayer from the bottom of my heart. And in my prayer, I ask, God, what you want from me at this moment? Because basically, that's the question we need to understand and we need to answer. Why I'm facing this, but in a way that what I need to learn from this, what you want from me. So because that challenge is happening to you to help you in the process of transformation, to give you that opportunity to transform yourself. So no matter what you are facing, for example, one of probably most pain that somebody can face in life is when you lose a loved one, and especially when that loved one is your child. Like a mother, for example, losing a kid, like a kid that discarnates in a very young age, for example. It's very, very challenging for a mom or a father to lose a child. And in our minds, this is never just, right? Like people start to question, how come? Because parents need to go before their kids. So it's never right when a kid go to the spiritual world before their parents, right? That's what I hear most of the time from people. And thankfully, I didn't face that pain, but I can imagine that it's probably one of the biggest pain somebody can go through, and you have that option to like get into a very miserable, depressed mode by just seeing yourself as a victim and asking a question God all the time about what you've been through, or you do have a chance to reflect and ask God, oh God, what do you want from me from this? Because it hurts so much. It must have a reason. What I need to do, what you want from me. And that can transform totally the way you see the situation and actually connect you to a different perspective of life. So, for example, we see some people that lose their kid for cancer, for example, and they start to work as a volunteer to help many other parents that are going through that same situation. That can bring so much consolation from you, and actually may make you feel closer to your loved child that is in the spiritual world at this moment. So things like that. I see so many moms, for example, that lost their kid due to a car accident that was alcohol was involved and led to that car accident. So then that makes some moms, some parents create associations to help to bring awareness about driving under influence, right? So they actually do a beautiful work, like to help other young people, and that in the same way, by doing that volunteer work, connect themselves to each other. They feel stronger, they feel back the faith that at some point they lost, and they feel connected more to God and understanding better the meaning of life. Knowing, as a spiritist, we are lucky enough to understand the meaning of life and to understand that the discarnation is just a very temporarily time that we're going to be far, but we know that our loved ones are still alive and we're going to meet again at some point. And we actually connected, even from the material world, we can feel, we can connect to them through our prayers, through our meditations, and in many other ways, right? So, but basically what I want to bring here is just that no matter how painful the situation you are, when you change the perspective and you start to understand that actually that those are always opportunity to learn and to grow, there's always a positive way to look into any situation that will certainly make you understand better what is the happiness that you can achieve in this life. So when you ask about if happiness exists, you're going to start to understand what kind of happiness that exists and what kind of happiness that you are able to reach. Okay? So continue on question 922. Kardec asked again, earthly happiness is relative to each person's position, so that what suffices for the happiness of one can be the cause of misfortune for another. Is there a common standard of happiness for everyone? So this basically bring it back, my first reflection about happiness, right? When we ask if happiness exists to different people, we're very likely going to hear different answers, because there's not such a thing as a common standard happiness for everyone. So let's see what the spirits answer. The spirit says, with regard to material life, it is the possession of what is necessary for survival. That's what means happiness in the material life aspect. With regard to moral life, it is the possession of a good conscience and the belief in a future life. So this part is many times missed by many people, either because they are not religious or they don't have any spirituality or connection to God or to the spiritual aspect of life, or because they are suffering so much that they cannot see this aspect, right? But this is the main thing that we need to work on. It's easy to understand that in the moral aspect of life, happiness is connected to what you possess, to the material things that you have. But that is not enough. In order to understand the full happiness, we need to understand the moral aspect that the Spirit is bringing to us here, saying that means having a good conscious understanding and belief in future life. And this is so important because this is the only way for you to understand the trials you are facing now, right? Knowing that this will pass. Life will not be just this experience. Life goes on, and you're always going to have a new chance to restart. As an immortal beings, we are in this journey, and we are all going through the same process to reach the perfection. How long it's going to take depends on our choice, right? But we are in this process. And then in the question 926, Kardec asked, does civilization, by creating new wants, become the source of new afflictions? And the spirits answered, the problems of your world are proportional to the artificial wants that you create for yourselves. And this is very easy to see, right? In our society, especially nowadays that we evolved so much in technology and intellectual knowledge, that also brought to us many new wants that are totally futile and not needed, right? So basically, we create those artificial wants, we create problems to ourselves too. So the spirits continue. People who are able to set limits on their desires and see what is above them without feeling envy, they spare themselves many disappointments. The richest person is the one with the fewest needs. So basically, this is going back to the understanding of what we need in life. Is that the material things or the moral aspect? Once we start to focus more in our moral growth, we can totally change the perspective we have in life, having a better understanding and get closer to that happiness we aim for. And then the question 933, it asked, people are often the architects of their own physical suffering. We all know that. And then they asked, are they the architects of their moral suffering as well? The spirits answer, even more so, because material suffering is sometimes independent of their will. However, wounded pride, disappointed ambition, the anxieties of greed, envy, jealousy, and all the passions are the torments of the soul. And they are a lot harder to be corrected and to overcome that. It's easy for you to achieve the material things, like easiest in a simple way to say. We need to work hard, of course. If you dream a certain car, you need to work hard and get that. But that is still a lot easier than to growth in morally aspects. So basically, to clear the jealous and envy and selfishness that we all carry requires a lot more efforts. That's exactly what the spirits is bringing here in this question. So, and that's the things that we should concentrate. By being spiritist and having the chance to have access to this knowledge and this type of reflection, this is a call for us to see what are we doing with the opportunities we have, with the options we have in life every day. What are we doing with them, right? And even the knowledge, the spiritist knowledge that we are having, what are we doing with them, right? And then the comments of that question says, envy and jealousy, blessed are those who do not know these two worms. Where envy and jealousy exist, there can be no calm or tranquility. These passions torment anyone who is a slave to them, even in their sleep. The envious and jealous are always agitated. Is such a state desirable? Do you not understand that you create the most terrible tortures with such passions, and that earth then truly becomes a hell for you? So there's no way you're going to find happiness until you have the jealousy and envy inside your heart. Only when you start to clear those vices from your soul, you are not able to see the happiness, no matter the life you have. You know, it's interesting when we start to reflect that, and you might have faced this situation, or you might be that type of person too, that, you know, when you talk to a friend and they say, oh, how is life? How things going? And they say, oh, everything's going fine. But for us to be happy, like for me to be happy, I still feel very, very much alone. For me to be happy, I need to find a good partner and get married and start to build my family. I have everything in life, but I don't feel happy because I'm alone. And then a few months or years after, you see that friend again, and that friend got married. And sounds like a successful marriage, and they are happy. And then you ask that friend, oh, so you got married. So how you feel now? Do you feel happy? Said, yes, the marriage is going fine. I found my soulmate, and I'm happy with the person. But we're still not completely happy, because we want to have kids, and we are trying for many years, and it's been challenging. And me and my partner, we don't feel complete happiness in our family, because we feel that to fulfill our family completely, we need our kids that we dream for. So I'm hoping that God can help me, and I can get my kids. I can get kids. And then a couple of years, they have kids, not even one, maybe two or maybe three, right? And then you find that friend again, and oh, so how's life now? I mean, you got married, you got your kids. I'm pretty sure now you are happy, right? And then they will say, oh yes, no, things are fine, thank God. I got much of what I wanted, but now we're still living in a very small house. It's a renting house, and it's hard. We feel that we are just wasting money by renting. So we feel that for us to be happy, we need to afford a house and be able to buy our dream house, and maybe a space, like a place where each kid can have their own bedroom, and maybe we can have a pool in the backyard. So we hope that at some point we get there. And we see that that's what we are missing now. So everything is fine, but we don't have our house yet. Okay, so go again, and you meet in a couple of years that friend again. They were fortunate enough to be able to work and pay and finally buy the house, and they have a beautiful house, 4-bedroom house with a pool in the backyard and everything. And you go there and ask that friend, oh, and how's life now? I see you got married, you got your kids, you got a house you dream for, so you must be happy. And they will say again, oh yes, everything is fine, but I'm fighting to be promoted in my work, so I don't get that CEO position. So because obviously I want the highest, right, to be happy. So my work's been good. I've been dedicating so many hours, so much time. I deserve that. I need to reach that level to be able to be happy with my family. So, and that goes on. That cycle will never finish, right? Every time you're going to meet that friend, and again, you might be that friend too. That might happen with us as well. So be careful with that. So basically, there's always something that you're never happy. God help you, you achieve what you want, but then you are not happy because you are missing that. And then you keep going and you are missing that. So there are many things for us to reflect on that. Number one, what is exactly the happiness I'm aiming for? So that is much connected to the material aspect, right? Because everything is material, right? A partner, kids, a house, a position at work, maybe a specific car, or maybe having the chance to live in a certain city, and so on. There's always something. And they are always material. So the material thing doesn't last, right? Give you the feeling of happiness, but that is very, very temporarily. Who don't get happy when they are able to buy their house? Obviously, all of us. And there's nothing wrong with that. But we need to understand that a couple of months after leaving that house, life goes on, right? That happiness will go away too. New challenges will come. New perspectives, new problems will come. And we need to understand that that is actually not the true happiness that we should aim for, right? Because until we don't bring the happiness to our heart, that feeling and understanding of happiness will never be happy as we can in this life. Because the spirits tell us through the Spirit's book that although we cannot find the perfect happiness, we should be as happy as we can in this life. But if you don't understand and having that feeling inside your heart, no matter what happens to you, you'll never be happy, because we are searching for happiness in the material things. I'm searching for happiness in my partner. I'm searching for happiness in my kids, in my house, in my work, in material things. So we'll never be happy. There are some people living in Brazil and not so happy there, and they think that, oh, moving to the United States, that dreamland, I'll be happy, right? How many, like us, those who are Brazilian here that are watching for this talk, I'm sure they can understand what I'm talking about. And we that immigrated from Brazil, that faced all the challenges of living in a new country, we can tell now that it's not that dreaming, that like perfect life that everybody see from there, right? It comes with challenges. For you to be able to get the position you wish, and get the work you wish, and establish a good condition to your family, it requires a lot of work, a lot of mental preparation to be ready to face all the trials. So basically, what I'm trying to say is that the happiness cannot be found in a place. Not live in my own country, I'm going to find happiness in a certain other country or other place. The happiness needs to be inside me. And all the concepts that Spiritism is bringing to us here is basically to give us that reflection, that understanding the aspect of life, the meaning of life, and the trials we are facing. That's the only way for you to reach that happiness that we aim for. And basically, I will not go through, because our time is almost over as well. But basically, if you continue on the following questions in the Spirit's book, there are much more questions that reflect about this topic. Question 937 and so on. They still reflect on the same idea of understanding life, understanding the happiness that you can reach. And that's what help us to go through our situations and understanding ourselves as an immortal being, as well as the main actor in our journey. Okay, so I don't see myself as a victim anymore. I see my role in this journey, and I understanding that all the pain and difficulties come from my own choices. Also, just to point it out and not go over that, but in the Gospel According to Spiritism, chapter 5, it mentions about the justice of afflictions. Also help us to understand the atonements and trials that we go through, help us to have this new perspective of life, help us to see the positive aspects on every difficulties we go through. So the Gospel, it says, "Blessed are the afflicted," may be translated in the following manners. Blessed are those who have occasions to prove their faith, firmness, perseverance, and submission to the will of God, because they will have multiplied 100 times the happiness they lacked on earth. For after labor comes repose. So this was a passage brought by Lacordaire, and is present on the chapter 5, item 18 in the Gospel According to Spiritism. Basically, this is a summary of what we all discussed for. Once we understand the laws of God and we applied those laws in our lives, we can have a different perspective of our difficulties and trials. And we, although we might be facing a very challenging life now, I understand that the new life will bring me more happiness if I start this process of transformation. And just the very last thing that I want to bring to you all is a documentary that I saw in, if I'm not wrong, I don't think it's Netflix. I'm trying to remember where did I see it. I think is it's called Happy. And I'm trying to see here. It's definitely not Netflix. I think it's Prime Video. if I'm not wrong. But basically, it's a very interesting, I think you can Google it too. I think through YouTube, you can find it. So the title is Happy. It's a great documentary. It's not religious related. It's not a spiritist documentary, but it brings many of the concepts that spiritists bring to us that we discussed here today. And it's very nice way to reflect about happy. So they pretty much go through all the things that we discussed in seeing how relatively is happiness. And there is some research that proved that as well, that there is some research that showed that there is a genetic component of the feeling of happiness. So as everything in life, there is some people that are more prone to feel happy than the others based on the genes, but most of it and half of it are basically related to the circumstances and the intentional activity you do. And basically, the happiness is mainly related to your attitude towards your challenges you face in life. So you can always choose to be more miserable or to change the perspective and see the challenge in a positive way that automatically is going to make you happier and change the way you see the challenges. So I highly recommend that. That documentary is as a way to summarize and have a fun way to reflect on this topic as well. So basically, I think our time is over. It's time for us to open up for comments or questions. But again, I hope you guys enjoy it, and I hope I could bring some reflections and some questions to each of you today about happiness.
Thank you ever so much, Joyce, for the insights and wonderful reflections you provided us today. Everyone, please stay with us for the Q&A session that will start shortly after just a couple of announcements. There is a podcast-like series, Psychology and Spirituality, A Bridge to a Better Life, based on the works by Joanna de Angelis. A new episode appears every Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. The Psychology and Spirituality weekly talks offer a safe space to confront, compare, correlate, and expand spirituality concepts from a psychological lens, bringing insights, actionable tips, and real-world advice to help you lead a better life. Subscribe to the USSF YouTube channel to receive notifications of new episodes. Also, the USSF has launched a new Spiritist app, Be My Hope, which is available now for download either on the App Store or Google Play. This brand new app offers uplifting content in a collection of videos, daily messages, and audio materials. Download now. So let's start now addressing the comments or questions from the audience. There's still time to send yours. For the United States Spiritist Federation, are people around us susceptible to our own happiness or unhappiness?
Yes, absolutely. I think that is going to be basically a result of your own choices. Everybody is susceptible to your own happiness or unhappiness, and which way they're going to go through, it's mainly related to their choices and their attitude towards the challenges. Nobody's immune to go through challenges and difficulties in life. And like, consider us here in planet Earth. We are here exactly because we are in a stage that we need to go through those obstacles, those difficulties, those challenges, right? Those trials. So, but we always have a chance to look into that in a positive way or to make the situation even worse. So that's when I see our susceptibility to our own happiness or unhappiness. It's basically you have the free will to direct your life towards one way or the other.
Very good. Thank you. From Daniel Santos, what role do relationships and social connections play in happiness?
Oh, that is a very good question, and that definitely plays a very strong role, because as I mentioned at some point during the talk, we are not a being that was meant or created to live by ourselves, like in a closed space, right? As a human being, we were created to live in society, to live in a collective environment. And so that's why it's very important to have the support of each other, either through family, friends, relationships, social connection. This will give us a sense of importance in this life, give us the meaning of being here, and definitely will help us a lot when we face challenges. When I know that although I'm facing this difficulty, but I'm important to my kids as a mom. I'm important to my husband as a wife. I'm important in my work as a physician, me personally, or no matter what you do, right? You're always going to find yourself as an important piece of the society or community you live. So that connection is extremely important to help you when you are facing challenges. Plus, that will be the connection that will give you the emotional support as well to go through trials and difficulties in life. So that is totally essential for you to have that perspective of life and that positive attitude that we need to find the happiness that we can achieve in this life. So being social, being connected to people, to some support, family, friends, is essential. It's very hard for you to have a positive attitude towards challenging when you don't have that support around you.
Good to know. From Sarah Dos Santos, how does social media impact a developing mind's happiness?
Oh, that's a very interesting question, Sarah. And social media can be good or it can be awful, as we see all the time, right? Because it again, it's a world that nobody has control of it, right? So I don't have control of what other people post on my timeline or post about me, or like how those people will understand about what I'm posting and those things. So basically, it can be pretty good when we have a nice connection and support through that social media. But at the same time, we need to understand that our stage of evolution, there is still lots of envy and jealousy that I mentioned through the lecture in all of our hearts. And that's not only apply for the others, apply to me, myself as well. And I need to understand that. So in many times, people are moved or driven by that jealousy and that envy in their hearts. And that unfortunately can be tragic in many circumstances, right? And that's the hatred that we see in social media nowadays, all come from that sense of jealousy and envy that people still carry in their hearts. By seeing someone that posts a picture of a happy family, I post my family in a happy situation, I hope that happiness that I'm facing, that I'm facing that moment, can help other people to feel that happiness too, right? That can go in that direction, but also can make many other jealousy and envy hearts bringing up their enviness against myself, right? So we really need to really see that situation on both aspects, understanding the goodness that the social media can bring, but also try to be prepared and protect ourselves from the negativity aspect of it, knowing that we still live in a society that is driven by many vices: selfishness, jealousy, and envy. So that unfortunately is still there. But again, the way I try to see it is that I cannot change the others. It's not my job to change the others. My job is to change myself. And I'm the one that always have the free will to change my attitude, my perspective. I can always pay back someone that is jealous against me. I can always pay back with more jealous and then start that fight. Or I can instead do my prayer for that person because they need more than me. You know what I mean? And then that will protect myself and will keep the harmony and the peace in my heart. And that person will at some point face a trial, a challenge that will make them change. I cannot do that. They need to do by themselves. So that perspective is also important in my mind, to know that I'm the one that always can make my own choices.
That's very helpful. Thank you. From TVCEI, International Spiritist Council. Is happiness a matter of accepting our current condition or situation without knowing if it will change?
There is a lot of accepting and resignation required to achieve the happiness that we can in this life. But we also, as spiritists, we know actually that situation will change. The thing is that might not change the time we want. Because what happens is that when we are facing a challenge, we want the change right now. Because we think that we tend to see ourselves as a victim. We tend not to fully understand that, and we want it now, as a toddler, you know, that want the toy right now. They don't understand that they have to wait. So what Spiritism is trying to teach us is that the change will happen, it will come, but you need to go through this process of transformation. So the change you are hoping might not happen in this life, but they will happen. We also, Spiritism also tell us that we all, no exception, we all reach the level of perfection. We're gonna get there. But how long it's gonna take? Like, it really depends on our choices. It's a long journey to reach that level, but we all know that we're going to get there. And that's why I'm telling you that no matter how difficult your situation, that will change, but might not change in this life. So our job is not to figure out when that change is going to happen. Our job is to get the best from what we have now and use the best that we can to help us to transform ourselves. So, and this only comes with acceptance and resignation. And that acceptance and resignation only comes when we understand the meaning of life, the purpose of life, the love of God, the God's law, you know, and go with those laws. That's what will give us consolation to have the understanding and the acceptance that we need to go through that difficulty.
Very good. Thank you. From Spiritus Net, how can we distinguish between genuine happiness and fleeting pleasure?
Basically, fleeting pleasures is mainly connected or related to material things, and they will expire at some point. They are definitely temporarily. We might give you some pleasant feelings and some level of happiness, but they will go away because they are not truly inside your heart, right? The genuine happiness is that one that are truly inside you, in a way that even when you are facing a challenge, you can find a positive way to look into it. You are able to find the answer instead of question God. That is what we do all the time. You are able to reflect inside that situation and find a positive aspect of that. It's hard, and I can tell you, probably none of us are able to do that all the time. Might be able to do in some circumstances, but there's always a very difficult situation that you might face that you are not able to get to that stage, you know. And that's why you are here. That's why you are going through this. Okay, but the genuine happiness, it's for very few people. But basically, my goal today is try to help us all get to that point. And it's a process. It's not something that will happen in a day. We are still very much connected to the fleeting pleasures that like and that's we kind of all we do are basically aim for that. But that's why we are not all like, even those who have a very good life now, have house, have work, have family, have healthy, they are not fully happy, right? There are moments that they are down, they are depressed, mainly because they still need to develop that genuine happiness inside them. And that only comes when we are able to see life in a positive aspect all the time, even when the things doesn't happen the way we want. Because we know that there's a meaning behind that.
Thank you. From the U.S. Spiritist Federation, how can we give encouragement towards happiness to someone who has lost their faith?
This is very difficult and a very interesting question, but very, very challenging. And again, the only thing we can do is try to be the support that that person needs. But we also need to understand that they are the only ones who can do that change. I cannot make someone recover their faith. I can offer them books. I can try to do healthy activities with them, like listen good music, good movies, do exercise, go to places, do volunteer work, to try to connect that person to a positive environment, connected to a good energy, and hope that my faith can contagiate, like can help them connected to the same faith. But at the end, it's their own choice. And there's nothing we can do really to force them to change, because it needs to come from them. I think the best way we can is by our own example. I mean, how many of us, when we see examples like Chico Xavier, Madre Teresa of Calcutta, or like many other people that were incarnated, because we have Jesus obviously as our master, but although we probably incarnated at the time of Jesus, but we don't remember in this present life. So I'm trying to give examples of our current life that is more concrete to each of us. Obviously, very far from Jesus, but still people that are more evolved than many of us. So by looking at them, they give us such a good feeling and make us reflect in so many ways. Right. And many times I see myself reading something from Chico and try to see, oh, look how Chico dealt with this situation. So maybe I can do the same, So in order to help someone who lost their faith, I believe the best way is by your own action and your attitude that can be contagious, can help them like connected to that. I think that's the best way. But again, at the end, it's up to them. We cannot, like, there's nothing that we can really do to directly change them. That needs to come from themselves. But I think our attitude, by looking at us and see how we face life and how like we can inspire them to that move. And that's what we hope.
Thank you for that. And from TVCEI, International Spiritist Council, is it possible in our current life to rid ourselves completely of envy?
I think it is, but I think it's very, very hard for us, mainly because this is still so much into ourselves that I'm not sure if in this life we are able to completely get rid of that. We see some examples. For example, when we read the book Paul and Stephen, that is we can see like long time ago, but we can see the transformation that happened with Paul as Saul initially, and by the moment he saw Jesus, he totally transformed himself. That is just to show that huge transformation is possible. but it's for very few people, because many of us are not ready yet for that like major transformation. We are slowly getting better. So I think at the end, our goal is not to totally clean the envy from our heart in this life, because maybe we're going to be asking too much to ourselves. And at some point, we also need to understand that we are learning and we need to forgive ourselves. Otherwise, that can cause us lots of suffering, pain too, that will not help through this process. You know, when we make a mistake, you need to be able to understand that I'm still a child of God and I need to forgive myself in many circumstances too, knowing that another day will start and I'll have a chance to restart and redo it. Okay, so basically, I think for this question, yes, it is possible, but I don't think this is our goal. If we can do that, amazing. But basically, small steps can be good enough. As long as we are moving in the right direction, that's what God wants from us. They want to see our efforts in trying our best every day, knowing that there's a long process. We still have lots of envy in our heart, and don't expect that you can clean that in one incarnation.
Okay. Thank you very much, Joyce. And many thanks to everyone who's watched today's talk live and those who have been following our weekly Spiritist Talk series. Now, we won't be having our Spiritist Live talk for the next 2 weeks due to the holidays, but we will be back on January 6th in the new year. Joyce, before we close the live, would you please offer a prayer?
Sure. Let's all close our eyes at this moment, and with our heart full of gratitude, let's thank God for the opportunity of being here, of learning, of reflecting on this topic of happiness, especially at this moment of the year that Christmas is arriving and a new year is about to come. So a new chapter in our lives can be started. And this is the new opportunity that God gives to us every day. So let's take that chance to thank God for this new opportunity, but also humbly ask our spiritual friends and mentors to help us through this process. And I hope that on a day by day, we can clean more the jealousy and envy and selfishness from our heart to be able to achieve the happiness that we can in the present life. And maybe with our attitude, we can inspire everybody around us to slowly change our world for the better. So we ask God to be with us all the time. And we thank for this opportunity to be here with you all in this morning. So be it.
Thank you. May all of you have a calming and mindful holiday.